Samson's starting to get a little action on those
Sweet.
verbal commits.
You getting some verbal commits?
Yeah, we've already got one of the contracts signed. There was supposed to be some funds that hit yesterday, but it didn't come, so I'm thinking today.
That's the
So
worst.
that's fantastic, dude.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Gotta
Yeah,
feel
Right.
no,
good.
it's been really good. It's been really good. Like that, just the system itself, just like constantly, like it's just no holds barred, you know? I'm not like being apologetic for any of it. Just being like, hey, it's time to go. Let's do this. We're rocking and rolling. And that seems to be, I don't know, helping a lot of the I don't know if they were just people on the fence, like that were already in our group and whatnot, but it's more like, all right, here we're doing this thing, and they're like, okay, let's do it.
You're controlling the process now. You know,
Yeah.
you're pushing it forward every day. Hey Sonia, hey VJ. My cousin started uh this an airplanes trading parts company, and they do probably like 400 500 million a year in sales now, so it's $1 billion company. He started from ground zero, and he's only like 35 or 6, so obviously I venerate him a lot. And so Samson, to your point, a few years ago I asked him, I was like, what's your one business advice, like out of everything, what's the number only one thing I should follow? And he goes, have no shame. And like that to me actually makes like sales no shame, follow up no shame. Like if you can just be ruthlessly with no shame, it is so beneficial to what you can accomplish. And yeah, it
It's
was
funny. This process has actually done that to me in a big way because before I was hesitant to even like family friends type conversations. And I'm just like, look, the least that you're going to say is no, or you're going to
yeah.
ignore me. But like, if I annoy you enough, you're going to be like, oh, just give him a couple grand to go away. You know?
Yep. That's all you need. That's awesome. All right, cool. So I think everyone's here. Tom just texted me, he's dropping his daughter off at school. Oh, it's in the group. Okay, we all saw that. All right, I'm gonna get started. Well, I guess maybe we'll wait for Tom. So does anyone Samson, I guess you've been having success. Like, has anyone else been noticing some success on this process as far as being able to get a hold of people and start to cultivate a bit of a new network?
Oh yeah, for sure. Surprisingly so. It's been nice to see and be reminded how much these folks have it's their job to find people like me. So I'm helping them. And I was on a flight back from LA and I sat next to this VC guy and he was just basically talking about how competitive the landscape is to give his money to the people that he wants to give them to, which was just like another solid reminder. And I just had to keep reminding myself, I'm the one that's doing it. They're the ones that are looking for people that are doing it to invest in. This is just a great reminder.
Yeah, and you really figured out a lot. Like when you went through your pipeline with me and shared your screen, that was actually my aha moment this week where I was like, oh, like this is a system that's starting to work, because the way you were doing it is you were finding people's comments on LinkedIn. You were using LinkedIn as essentially a menu for picking people out, and you were spending hours on it, going through there, finding people, and a good amount of your meetings so far have been cold. I know it's like that to me was really cool to see, and it made me feel that this is definitely something that works. Like I know it works for me, but I'm seeing it work for Samson. I'm seeing it work for you. Marvin's getting a bunch of these contacts. Tom's doing the same thing. So like yeah, it was really cool to start to get some early success. You got to also remember we've only been doing this now 2 weeks. Like just 2 weeks ago, we were really focused on the story and the deck, and so this stuff really starts to compound. Like 2 weeks ago, it was early targeting and outreach on December 13th, and then this last week we did investor outreach, kind of full throttle. This is one more week of us doing this, where it's going to be investor networking intros, like continuing this process, foot on the pedal. Um, and then probably I'd say like the first week of January, we're going to start shifting our mindset towards closing. And that might seem quick, but that's why you got to just continue to have as many conversations as possible between now and the next 2 weeks. Because we're literally going to be telling these investors, whether it's January 24th or that next Friday, I'm not sure. I'm still debating what's the right way to do that. But like we are literally telling investors in January, hey, this is our closing date and we need you to start making decisions. So I'll start the presentation, but yeah, I think it's good to see that this is working, and it's really good to know that like this is just the beginning. This stuff compounds on a week-on-week basis. So we are entering phase 2, level 3, and this is every week is the most important week going forward. This is the most important week. We need to get 40 names into scheduled by next Friday. And so we've been doing this the last few weeks. Pretty much everyone except 2 of you have gone through and actually done the 200 plus names and messaged, which is awesome. And as we noted earlier, everyone's starting to get responses and things are starting to happening. So that's great on the cold emailing front. The stuff's been working for me as well. I'm doing it on my end. And I took the screenshot on Monday or on Tuesday. I made this slide, so it's out of date, but like, I'd say about 5 to 10% of people I'm messaging are responding with something positive. And I'm starting to meet some very cool people. SC responded a few days ago. And so I, started looking to her background. Stanford MBA, talks at Columbia, runs a community of 300,000 product managers. And then the general partner from Andreessen has a testimonial saying she's a genius at making products people love. And like, I'm starting to now get a hold of these types of people just through these cold messaging. And I'm seeing a lot of you are doing the same. So like, just keep it up. It's really starting to work. Now, the reason why we did cold messaging before we went full on onto the warm side is because of the logic that it takes longer for a cold message to get a response than for a warm message to get a response. So we all started sending these cold messages 2 weeks ago. In order for you to get your response, it probably takes about 2 weeks on average, I would say. Whereas someone that's warm, obviously they're going to respond a lot sooner. And so the reason why this is important is because we want to have every investor essentially on a very similar timeline. Like your general intro meeting should be around the same time. Our formal pitch meetings are going to be around the same time. And this is what ultimately creates urgency so that in 6 weeks, everyone's moving along a very similar schedule on the investor base, because it creates then competition. So this is the logic for starting to go warm. I need everyone to send another 50 messages out to warm people within their network. And this is something we've been somewhat doing, but the way to think about this is it doesn't need to be investors. They need to be people that can potentially help you meet investors. You probably have a lot of more people that that you haven't thought about or haven't really realized that are out there that can help you with this process. And this is the time to really zone in and start to think about who they are. That's people you used to work with. Like all of you have had jobs in the past. There's people that you used to work with, they have gone on and done things with their career. I would look through that list of people. Your co-founders, if you haven't asked them yet, it's important to start to work within people, your company or advisors. Just basically like your customers, your product users, anyone that you can think of that has a warm connection to you, you need to start reaching out and asking for some sort of help here. And the key is just, we're going to turn over every possible rock. Like at the end of this program, the one thing you don't want to have is regrets that you left something on the table here. That's like the number one thing that you should be trying to give. And so we need to go through everyone in our network and really reach out and figure stuff out. If all this continues going to plan, then we're going to have each of us about 40 different people in the scheduled meetings category by next Friday. There's Christmas next week. It's going to be hard. There's holidays. Everyone's, eating good food. But this is very important that you just don't take your foot off the pedal and don't give up family time. Obviously, like family's more important, but keep your focus and foot on the pedal for this fundraising networking stuff, because we're closing in January. Once somebody gets past the scheduled point, you've actually had a conversation with them, this is my advice on what you should be doing to maintain the warmness of your pipeline. All the small wins that you're having, you should be sharing those wins in like short emails with the people that you felt you had a good, strong connection with and are in your intro done category. So when you get a soft commitment, you email the other people and say, hey, just want to let you know we have a soft commitment. You know, you're not asking for anything, you're just updating them. When you've done 200 grand of revenue, which one of you have since talking to one of these investors 10 days ago, like send a message to that person and say, hey, we've done 200 grand since our conversation and we're expecting, you know, X amount next year, right? So like all these small wins, this is how you maintain contact, and you just keep sharing with the people that you felt you had a good connection with. Speaking of verbal commitments, some of you are starting to get those. I want to just like really zone in on more of the closing process now, although it's a little early. I'm just going to talk about it. This happens almost every single time in this sequential order when you go to close money. We are all in this friendly networking. We're not fundraising phase right now. This is just about numbers. How many people can you go meet? Who do you click with? That's all that this phase is about. However, naturally, some of you are starting to get verbal commitments or like soft commitments towards the round, which is actually one of the much later stages of closing. And so it's important to realize that although it's nice when people tell you like, yeah, we're in for 50K or 100K, whatever it is, and they kind of like casually say that, you need to still go through a diligence process before that verbal commitment actually means anything. So it's great to have small wins, but like know that that money is not at the bank and there aren't terms associated with those verbal commitments yet. So it's really important to stay grounded and focused, as in like this is our opportunity to close that, but it hasn't actually changed anything. And so in about 2 weeks, we're going to formally schedule our intro pitch meetings with everybody. This is the first week or two of January. The difference between what you're doing now and these formal pitch meetings is a closing date. So we are closing on January 24th. We are closing on February 1st. That is the difference, because now we're moving everybody through this process of due diligence, partnership pitches, Q&A, partnership pitches, due diligence, and then getting the terms verbally committed to, and then actually closing, sending the contracts, and asking for the wire. So this is what we're going to be doing in January. Some of you are starting to get verbal commitments already. That's awesome. Just remember that we still need to go through this process with each investor. And so don't, try to get too far ahead of your skis there. All right, I'll stop talking and open the floor for questions.
The biggest question I have, sorry, is I am getting requests for decks, right? Whether it's decks or executive summaries, just kind of how much, especially in the instance of giving them the deck and then following up for like a pitch or a review or even an intro. It's kind of the thought process there. Like I've been hesitant to just like send it out and give it out willy-nilly. Obviously, some people are asking, yeah, I'll give you like I've been using it as a soft open, like, hey, would you like love to get some feedback on this? And they're like, yeah, we can give you feedback on that. But then also just making sure that that leads to more than, hey, thanks for taking a look at my deck.
Yeah. Marvin asked me this question once every 4 or 5 hours, so I've been used to answering it. No, it's a great question. And I mean, I think so. The way I would think about all this stuff is that like these are the default modes that I'm in right now. They're not hard rules that you should always stick to. So if someone's clearly interested and they're asking for the deck for the right reasons, yeah, of course, don't slow that momentum, send them the deck. The way that at this stage, the way that I think about the deck is that it's essentially just your key to unlock doors. So it's great for, forwarding off to somebody to tell your story. They can't, send a video of what you are doing at this point. So the deck is just a really good way to like move through other people's networks without you having to be there. if someone's serious about, fundraising, send them a deck and say something along the lines of, we plan on closing something in Q1 2025. We're still working through the exact details and figuring out who it is we want around the table. And that's honest, right? Like, we're closing sometime next year. We're just trying to network and see which investors do we feel are worth giving ownership in our baby, our business, right? Like, that's the phase we're at. And so you just can say that. But yeah, you can send the deck. I mean, don't be precious about it, but don't feel that there's ever a reason not to send a deck if someone that you like is asking for it.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question, or did you have more there?
No, I think that that's great. Yeah, I think that that's great.
Okay.
Hey, Don.
Yep. Hey, Uli.
Oh, sorry, I missed your message for the meeting yesterday.
No worries.
We hosted an event yesterday, and that's what we were doing.
What kind of event?
It's a holiday event for all the people that we've been working with, talking with. About 70 people showed up, so it was
Wow.
pretty busy.
Is that some investors too?
Yeah, some of them were
That's awesome.
investors, and so we had our video demo video running through the event. But
Yuli, are you still gonna do that panel about investing in autism around the healthcare conference in January?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. He was saying that he's organizing basically a panel in cahoots with a local healthcare conference. I think it's one of the largest in San Francisco. And then he's like inviting the investors and people he's networking with to that event in January, kind of like what I do with the Spatial Collective in some ways. And then he's going to see once he's there if he can like meet people in person and kind of cultivate that group there. So I thought that was really smart, Yuli.
So what we have been doing so far is we have identified 1,000 people that have connections with startups, investors, or investors themselves, or startup founders themselves in this space. And we sent out messages. We got about 300 or so responses back. And so we are totally overwhelmed on how to put them into schedule and be able to meet with them. And so I created a Calendly, and then we're plugging them in there. One of the problems I run into is they'll say, yeah, I am part of this accelerator. Go ahead and apply. Or that's one kind. I don't know how to respond to that. The other kind is they'll say, yeah, I do help startups raise money, and this is my fee. How do you respond to those two types of groups?
All right, so there's the accelerator, which they're saying apply for it, and then there's the fundraise helpers that charge a fee. For the accelerators, are you talking to like the decision maker there, or who are you talking to at those accelerators?
Usually, yeah. Usually the people that do the screening, that are pretty active in the accelerator.
Okay. I just heard of My First Million podcast where this would be a good story. Let me see if I can. What was the company? There's a company called Replit, Replit, and then the founder is Amjad Masad. I'll share the episode. But anyways, long story short was this founder was talking directly with Paul Graham, who's the YC founder, and had a good was building a relationship with Paul Graham. And the founder essentially thought like, oh, I'm going to be in. Paul told me to go apply. And so the founder talks about in the story how he basically didn't give a lot of effort into the application process. And then once they brought him in for a meeting, they let him know, like, just because you knew the founder and all this stuff doesn't mean that you got to slack off on the application process. Anyways, all that's to say is that I think if they're saying that, take it serious. Like that's their process, and they have
Yeah.
a system built around making these decisions. So maybe you can send it to them beforehand and say, hey, is there anything you would add here that I'm overlooking? Are there any missing gaps that you would help me improve this application? And lean on them. But like that's great. If they're saying, apply, it's a great start. Again, this is about kissing frogs, and like you're gonna get 100 rejections, and most of those rejections you're gonna take seriously because you put a lot of effort into the application or the relationship. And so unfortunately there are going to be a lot of accelerator programs or whatever it is you apply to that is like wasted effort. But if you look at it from a holistic view, it's not wasted effort because we're just trying to go get rejected or accepted as quickly as possible. Okay, so that's for the accelerator side. People who help startups raise money. I mean, that's kind of what this program is. I think, if you can meet someone that is helpful, like I have no issue with going for that. Just make sure they're helpful. I think a lot of these things aren't all that helpful from what I've gathered from a lot of founders. I paid for something myself back in the day. It was 10 grand. I gave the guy 10 grand. I basically never heard from him again. And that was with my last startup for fundraise support. So I think, they're good. Just be careful there. Okay. As far as your first off, congrats. You got 300 responses. I mean, that's great. I saw your message. It was a great message. You had somebody on your team sending these messages on your behalf through your LinkedIn. I think that's smart and scalable. That's great. So probably I think there's two ways to approach that. When I have more demand than I can expect on BD calls, it's either I've not filtered well enough, and so I'm unfortunately about to go waste a lot of time at these meetings, which is not a good thing to do. The other thing is I did filter well enough, but that rarely happens. So I think probably like the right thing here is now really be meticulous of the people that responded, who are the top 50 you want to talk to, prioritize giving them 30-minute meetings. And then if there's people that are more on the fence, give them 15-minute meetings and be pretty strict about your time there. It's going to feel weird, but I do it all the time, and it's good for you. It's good for the person that you're talking to as well, right? Like if there's no business relationship to be had, there's no business relationship. So I would probably be really meticulous about how you're going to prioritize those 300, but that's a great problem to have.
Yeah, I think some of them are, maybe many of them are just curious to know what I'm doing. And so they'll say, yeah, I'll help you. I want to talk with you. And so I'm finding it, and sometimes you don't know if that person will be helpful or not, so you cannot just
Yeah.
blow them off.
One idea, you could host a webinar or like an online panel, kind of what I do, and invite everyone that responded to attend that. That basically has everyone take one step further along, like, yeah, I'm serious about wanting to talk to you, Yuli. And so that might be a good solution as well. And you can do that, in the next, right after Christmas, basically, before your in-person event that you're going to be doing.
Yeah. Okay. Good idea.
Good job. Yeah. But definitely prioritize the investors, like investors first, people with cash.
Thank you.
Yep. Other questions? Okay. All right. We'll hop off then. Remember, we need 40 names in scheduled in the next week. Push yourself to do this. This is the crunch time. It's really important that we get momentum, because as soon as it's going to feel soon, but like we are starting to move towards closing in the next 5 weeks. And that is meaning we are trying to get money into your bank accounts in the next 5 weeks. That is as fast as you can do a fundraise process, which means that we need everybody going overdrive and not letting their foot off the pedal right now. Be the founder that's, different than the other founders that are not working right now. It's important to do that, and you'll get ahead. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Friendly reminder, please do follow-ups. Follow-ups work. They're proven to work. And if you have an extra hour or two today, go send an extra 30 messages to warm people and to the cold people, and just keep going. Don't stop. It adds up. All right. Adios. I'm
Thanks,
available on
Don.
Telegram
Good
for
luck,
anyone.
everyone.
Yep, of
Thanks,
course.
everyone.
Thanks everyone for showing up. I appreciate that. Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.